Welcome to the Economy Magazine at I24 News, where we provide a daily view on world markets and the global economy. I am Tal Heinrich. Coming up on the program, the tech world congregates for the annual Web Summit. 30,000 people enjoy 3 days of conferences, networking, and parties. I24 News' very own Natalie Erlich traveled to Dublin to get the inside scoop. And China's one-child policy, slowing the country's population growth since the 1970s, has been officially removed. But what will this mean for the world's #2 economy? We'll have expert analysis later in the program. First, let's start with today's headlines. Janet Yellen sees a strong economy in the United States and could raise interest rates as early as December if labor and inflation numbers continue to improve. The Federal Reserve Chair told Congress on Wednesday that the economy is, quote, performing well. She said she expects the economy to continue to improve and inflation to return to its 2% target. If these prove true come December, she would indeed strongly consider a rate hike.
At this point, I see the U.S. economy as performing well.
And Lebanon's central bank governor Riyad Salameh warned that the country's political deadlock is harming the economy and urged politicians to pass laws for development loans, debt issuance, and banks. Lebanon is expected to record zero growth in 2015, and Salameh said that he has no intention to change interest rates. Political conflict has brought the policy making to a standstill in Lebanon, which has been without a president for 17 months. And the OECD took Brazil to task on Wednesday for its rapid pace of deforestation as the emerging economy raises more trees than any other country in the world. In its first environmental survey in the country, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development warned that Brazil must take further action to clean up the environment, even as its worsening economy is complicating those efforts. The group also forecast that the country's economic output would shrink by 3.1% next year.
Brazil still has the world's largest annual deforestation rate, which means that every 4 years it loses an area of rainforest the size of Israel.
And a new leader in Canada, Justin Trudeau, sworn in on Wednesday, officially becoming Canada's 23rd Prime Minister. Trudeau's Liberal government immediately set about introducing 2 ambitious priorities by year-end: resettling 25,000 Syrian refugees and shifting the tax burden from the middle class to the rich. The party's House leader said that by January 1st, he aims to reduce the tax rate on income between $45,000 and $90,000 and raise it on income of more than $200,000.
I know the Canadians expected us to come together and put forward a team that is going to be able to deliver on the change, on the ambitious plan for this country that the Liberal Party ran on, and that's exactly what we are going to deliver.
Facebook posted a 40.5% jump in quarterly revenue on Wednesday, helped by new advertising services and its mobile app. Stock in the world's largest social network rose about 5% to an all-time high of $109.34 as the company's revenue jumped to $4.5 billion in the third quarter of this year. The tech giant also continued to expand its reach, now averaging more than 1.1 billion users per day. And this week marked the opening of the annual International Web Conference, and among the 30,000 tech visitors is our very own Natalie Erlich. Let's get going with the latest developments.
Welcome to Web Summit, the ultimate stomping ground for techies, robot enthusiasts, and Fortune 500 CTOs from across the globe.
The summit's a great event. It's a huge event, so you really need to look for what you want to get done and focus on that.
30,000 people from 212 nationalities converging in Dublin, Ireland, for 3 days of conferences, networking, and parties.
It's just the biggest one, so in Europe. So basically, it's just like there are more opportunities to meet everyone from all around the world.
Big names in tech tackling the world's biggest topics in tech. single e-commerce identity, robot ethics, democratizing cloud apps, and why smart homes are so dumb.
And what's really cool, you can message anyone here directly. It's almost like Tinder, but for techies.
Speaking of Tinder, the biggest attraction this year, Sean Rad, president and co-founder of Tinder, also spoke about how his technology is helping people build relationships. And of course, Pepper the robot also drew some attention.
I can listen to your voice or signs of frustration or happiness. Every day I'm learning and striving to become a better companion.
Still, the conference is not as democratic as one might hope. Make no mistake, this is for the elitist of the elite. Tickets costing as much as 5,000 euros a pop. But for those lucky enough to make it this year, most attendees were energized, a bit exhausted, but mostly inspired.
Now it's time for our startup segment, where we spotlight a promising Israeli company. Natalie Erlich sat down with Oren Milstein to discuss his radiation-focused technology.
On set, we have Oren Milstein of STEMRAD. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us, what are you wearing here?
I'm wearing a belt that would protect you from life-threatening radiation.
All right. Well, here on Earth, right?
This is for gamma radiation, terrestrial radiation present on Earth, yeah.
All right. Well, this is the focus of your company, STEMRAD. Mm-hmm. Tell us about some of the work in deep space exploration.
So this is the principle of our product, which is actually based on selective shielding of stem cells. Can be adapted to several applications. One of them, and perhaps the most exciting one, is space exploration by humans. And this thing is coming back after having said a goodbye to the space shuttle program. Lockheed Martin is now pursuing the development of the Orion space shuttle, or spacecraft, that would take humans back to space, but only this time to deep space, far away from Earth, and all the way to Mars, we hope, one day. And for that, you would need, first of all, and foremost, personal protection for astronauts going into that area, which is not protected by Earth's magnetosphere, and therefore they'd be exposed to radiation.
Okay. Well, in your view, how will space exploration evolve over the next 5 and 10 years, and how is your company contributed to that advancement?
Well, I think the path is pretty clear towards sending astronauts back to the moon. And even for that, you would need some certain level of protection for those astronauts going all the way out there. The Apollo missions happen to be fairly lucky for missing some of the solar flares that occurred in the 1970s, and therefore those individuals were not harmed. But we can't take any chances with our people, especially on long-term missions such as to Mars. And a lot of money.
Why is it gathering so much attention from these bigwigs in the tech space?
I think, once you've made so much money, you're looking for something to excite you, and more money is not going to do the trick. Going to space, sending people to space, changing history will do the trick.
So is this almost like an extreme sport for these characters?
I wouldn't say extreme sport. I think it's a sincere intent to improve the world for the better, and to seek out alternatives to a limiting supply of natural resources here on Earth, and limited space for people to prosper in. And I think space holds a great promise. Even the solar system around us is full of treasure troves that only are awaiting to be opened.
All right. Well, what is it like doing this kind of work here in Israel?
I think the connection with what we're doing up till now, and still are doing, and that is protecting first responders going into radiological disaster areas, I think that connection is what I like so much, because we're dealing with fear with our current product, okay, which is, I think, the world's best answer, okay, to exposure to gamma radiation today. And you can be exposed if it's a nuclear reactor or a dirty bomb, or, God forbid, a nuclear detonation. And this product is the answer for that. So you'd say that we're dealing with fear over there. But on the other hand, we're dealing with hope, okay? We're dealing with sending people to areas where no person has stepped, So the combination here of fear and hope is really unique. And I think it comes a full circle there. And it excites me so much to be a part of it.
Well, thank you very much for bringing this up on the program. Very much appreciate it. Oren Milstein of STEMRAD.
Great. Thank you.
China's reversal of one-child policy will have economic implications. The next report sums up some of the political outcomes.
As part of a 5-year plan, last week China announced that it will lift its one-child policy, which since the late 70s limited Chinese couples to having only one child in a bid to slow population growth. Now couples will be allowed to have 2 children. The new policy comes at a time when China is looking to shift some of its economic focus from manufacturing and infrastructure building to high-tech and innovation as they look to a consumer-based model. At the core of the decision, though, may be China's quickly aging population.
The two-child policy generally will have positive impact on the economy. In the short term, having another child will boost social demand and consumption related to child raising. In the long term, it will change China's labor supply.
China's workforce saw shrinkage of nearly 2.5 million people in 2013, and recent numbers show that the population may go into decline in 10 or 15 years. Today, the ratio of taxpayers to pensioners is nearly 5-to-1, but by 2030, this will fall to 2-to-1. While some see benefits including sharing the burden of taking care of aging parents, many only see financial hardship. A survey in Chinese media outlet Sina showed only 30% of the 150,000 respondents interested in having a second child. Many have suggested that the costs of everything from housing to education are deterrents.
I think people decide how many children to raise according to their financial abilities. If they have the ability to take care of more children, then they should be allowed to have more.
Beyond these concerns, there is worry that added family pressures could lead to drawbacks for women in the workforce, reinforcing patriarchal systems.
Especially for female workers, there should be some policies to protect them during the pregnancy and nursing periods, to ensure that their income promotion, career development in companies will not be affected.
As Chinese authorities aim to reinforce their workforce in the country of 1.37 billion people, they will have to look at their ability to supply social services, from education to health to housing, as the demand booms if the two-child policy takes hold.
And joining us now in the studio to discuss this change of policy is Sam Castor. Hi, Sam, analyst at Clarity Capital. So, Sam, why is this happening now? Give us a bit of a background. Why is this decision? Why are we hearing about this decision now?
For sure. Well, starting off with the background, the issue here is always the economy in China, and then the flip side is what are some of the issues behind the economic challenges. So in terms of the economic issues, the third quarter data just came through, and China's economic growth was at 6.9. That's the lowest it's been in about 10 years. So for China's leaders, that's a key concern. Now, one of the major economic challenges they're facing is completely lopsided demographic threats. What does that mean? As you suggested in the video a little bit earlier, their workforce is aging. They don't have enough young people to support the social security that's going to having to go to the older people. And also, there's a tremendous gender imbalance. You have many, many more men being born than women, and this leads to a lot of social pressure, leads to a lot of young unemployed males in the street, which creates political pressure on the government. And therefore, they had to address this demographic issue, which has widespread impact on the economy as well.
And how is this latest announcement affecting the markets?
Well, I would just take a step back before addressing that, because you had asked, why is this happening now? One thing, the media around the world is paying tremendous attention to this, the end of the one-child policy. I mean, this has been the most ambitious social scale that any government in history has ever tried on 1 billion people. 35 years, how successful has it been? There's tremendous attention on that. What people are not focusing on is that this past week, China rolled out the government its new 5-year economic plan. This new 5-year economic plan is part and parcel where they announced the end of the one-child policy. This 5-year economic plan is critical. Just to give a little bit of history here, this is the 13th 5-year plan China has had. The Soviet Union, from who China learned to use 5-year economic plans, never made it to its 13th 5-year plan. It collapsed during the 13th plan. What does that mean? People around the world now are starting to be very critical of China's economy. They're saying, can the Chinese growth rate continue? China, seeing its growth rate decrease, they're under now pressure to ensure that their new 5-year plan will succeed. this is the surrounding in which they announced the plan to eliminate the one-child policy.
Sam, looking back on that policy, was it proven to be harmful or helpful for China's economy?
Well, the debate is always going to exist. I think most experts, and I would agree with them, are going to show widespread social harm that it caused the Chinese population, particularly when you look at the women. Women, it hurt them socially, it hurt them economically. As we mentioned, there are many more male children being born than female children. Obviously, it limited people's personal abilities. Looking to the future, though, some are predicting a big boom, a baby boom that's going to happen in China. Already you saw the stock prices of baby products, of milk products going through the roof. The condom prices, those were falling as a result. But not just the young population, but also the aging population. This will have an effect.
Sam Chester, thank you so much. And thank you all for watching our daily economy magazine. For more business stories, you can check our website, i24news.tv, and of course, catch us here again. See you soon.